Welcome to today's podcast, the first in a series of podcasts developed by the 100 Million Ways Foundation. 100 Million Ways is a nonprofit organization begun in 2019 to help folks suffering from chronic pain, stress, and substance dependence. My name is Don Stewart, and I'll be your host. The goal of 100 Million Ways is to identify and help provide alternative ways of dealing with pain and stress that reduces overall harm to the individual, to their friends and family, and to the community. As part of the mission, we've launched this podcast series. Episodes will feature guest interviews with those helping to turn the tide on this national tragedy, plus a variety of news reports and scientific findings on potential treatments and approaches. We urge you to visit our website at 100millionways.org to access a bounty of free resources. Today we'll be speaking with Executive Director of 100 Million Ways, Brian Chadwick. Brian has spent his career constructing online communities, designing data collection studies, also known as registries, and a variety of other clinical trials. Brian's also a registered nurse with experience in New York City ICUs and CCUs. Today's topic, social inequities driving the opioid epidemic. Brian will discuss the concrete steps that can be taken now to start chipping away at this daunting social and medical challenge. Spoiler alert, there is hope. Let's elaborate for a moment on the whole concept of social inequities.
Yes. Social inequity it's a complex concept. It really refers to the people responsible for making decisions about the way society operates. And if you're an opioid user, or HIV patient, or many of the socially less appreciated groups in America, you probably suffer from social inequity or social inequality. So what we're here to talk about today are some of the things that we can do right now to make a difference. We have designed a program, we call it 6 Steps to End the Opioid Crisis. I'm not intending to be too bold, but the fact is that this is something that can be fixed. When we talk about social inequity, it takes the people that create social equity to realize that this is a bigger problem and this is more important problem to solve. So social inequality is something that can be changed, but it can only be changed if a number of things happen. Some of them more complicated, some of them easier. We're here to talk about the easier ones. The easier ones include harm reduction. It's the first thing we have to do. 100,000 people died last year. We have to stop or decrease the number of people dying. So how do you do that? Well, there are lots of ways that this can be done, and it can be done now. We have fentanyl strips. So we know that the opioid addiction or the opioid crisis has now become the overdose crisis, and it's different because it's fentanyl that's primarily killing folks. So if a person is in the street and is buying drugs, it would be dandy if they'd be able to tell just about how much fentanyl, or if there's fentanyl in the drug. Oh, fentanyl strips. 100 Million Ways is making them free to our members. So fentanyl strips is a simple solution. And they should be available everywhere all the time. You should be able to pick them up on the street corner. And in New York City, they actually have vending machines now, and that you can get not only fentanyl strips, but next, syringes, needles, both clean, and in many cities, including New York City, they now will provide you with a safe place to use drugs. I started as a much more conservative person, so it gives me a little bit of the heebie-jeebies, providing all this access and safety, but it's better than dying. That's very important. Am I using fentanyl? Now, I have heard somebody say, yeah, so I was a patient. I needed opioids because I have goddamn chronic pain. I've had it for 30 years. Everybody knows about it. And suddenly I can't get them. I've been narc-scared. There's a program now that it points me out and says, this culprit may be using too many opioids, so I can't get them. So I couldn't get them. So I decided to go out in the street because I had that much pain. So the other thing that is something we can do now, something we can do immediately, and something we are doing, is in the harm reduction category, is mental health is health. Mental health is health is a saying that popped up as a result of the pandemic. I hear it all the time now. I like it. I think it's true. Mental health is health is something that has become a phrase that at 100 Million Ways has kind of become a center of what we're paying attention to. Providing opportunities for our members to participate in online group support sessions for no cost. We already are running some of these sessions, and we're getting very positive feedback. It gives people the opportunity that would never have had the opportunity because of social inequity. They don't have the money, they don't have the contacts, they don't have the insurance, they're not going to get to see somebody to talk to. So providing an opportunity to have somebody to speak with online in a group session, anonymous and moderated. These are important things. And I can tell you now that our participants are enjoying, for the most part, we get a lot of positive feedback. It's something that 100 Million Ways is going to continue. And the third one that we can do right now is the treatment approaches that we're taking have to be multimodal, like the mental health online. That's a treatment approach. People have to feel better about themselves. The other treatment approaches that we're taking that are multimodal, cannabis. We call it cannabis as medicine. Last week, the Senate agreed that we should be able to research cannabis as medicine. And I think it's a big step. It's not federal approval. It's not decriminalization. It's not one of the bigger solutions, the ones that we talked about that have to be done by society making a big decision. Society has to decide that if you're convicted of a crime that has no violence and it's a drug-related conviction, you shouldn't be in jail. You know there are 500,000 people in jail for that? Not only are the jails overwhelmed, they could use the space back. I mean, back in the day, yeah, having a marijuana cigarette, having a joint, okay, you get arrested. This is 2022. These things, this marijuana is on the cusp of being legal. People are using it recreationally all over the world. And one of the things when we were first starting 100 Million Ways, we were trying to say that my first approach was cannabis is non-addictive and not lethal. And one of our scientific advisors suggested to me, you know what, don't fight the non-addictive game. The not lethal part is good enough. And she was right. If I'm using something and it's giving me the opportunity not to use something else that's going to kill me, I'll take addiction. I'll take dependence. If you take one less opioid a day, I mean, it's just more complex than that, but you're probably not going to die. You know, if you're using an alternative, cannabis or whatever your alternatives are, although, again, you want to stay away from the deadly ones. One of the big problems we have with treating opioid use disorder is that the two drugs we use to treat it, methadone and buprenorphine, are both lethal. You know, so it's better because it's controlled. It's, you know, the old methadone days. You know, I remember addicts not really liking it because now suddenly they were controlled. The government knew who they were. They were giving them their doses. Having said that, it's better than buying in the street, clearly. But when you think about treatment in 2022, it has to be more than that. It can't be sobriety. It can't be only sobriety. You know, if Alcoholics Anonymous is a great organization, but we need to be more flexible than that. You can't expect everybody to be, and if you're not sober, you can't be here. I don't think so. I think that we have to realize that some people are just not going to beat the drugs, and therefore the first thing we have to do is make them not die, harm reduction. We have to give them the opportunity to improve their mental well-being. These folks are having lots of challenges. A little bit of mental health is a good idea. And we have to give them multimodal treatment approaches. Cannabis, you don't have to be sober. You can participate. One of the other things that we're having great success with is providing an opportunity for our memberships to be certified as a peer support specialist. If you think about the multimodal approach, you think about online group support sessions, this has become an industry. So this is jumping now into space, and lots of people are taking advantage of it because it's not that expensive. Probably too expensive for most of our members, but not so expensive. Now we're taking a step further. We're saying, We have a relationship with another organization, and they're building a certification program for people to become peer support specialists. Well, in this environment today, with all these online group support sessions, organizations popping up, I think we have it's created a whole new job opportunity. So if you're somebody that has had a challenge with opioids, but you're in a point in your life and want to try something else, we're going to offer you an opportunity, a 6-week program to become a peer support specialist. Become expert in your own field. You've certainly had the experience. Now you need to have the education, and you need to have the commitment to participate. We're paying for that. That's a grant. One of our members has to apply for it. It costs $2,500. It's a 6-week program. But there are jobs. 100 Million Ways can employ them right off the get-go for our programs. We talk about small steps to take. These are the small steps we can take right now.
So, Brian, as we leave today's program, what are a few thoughts we want to leave our audience with?
I think hope. That's a good one. I think there's not much of that around these days. We want to encourage people to reach out. There are online communities, not just 100 Million Ways. There are online communities paying attention to people's needs. It's a worthwhile endeavor. Being involved with people that have similar challenges as do you can be a very, very positive experience. If you have the luck to get certified and you're motivated and committed to get that done, you can get a job, and then you're going to be you're going to be helping to moderate one of those sessions. There'll be a professional moderator, but there's a person there that has lived the experience, can relate to those folks better than anybody else. And for them, a little bit of pride, a little bit of substance. I have a job. I'm getting well. And if you happen to get to the point where you can eliminate opioids from your life, all the better still. But even if you don't die. And I think so. If I to walk away from this podcast, I think probably the main theme is you don't have to die anymore. So I think that's something that we can do something about today.
Thanks again for joining in this, our first podcast. We invite you to visit our website and become a member of 100 Million Ways. It's absolutely free, and it entitles you to a host of free resources. You can also leave comments on today's podcast and make suggestions as to what we might discuss in the future. You can also enlist in a paid scientific study, the Odyssey Registry, and so much more. Until next time, this is Don Stewart. Thanks again for your interest.